from Johannesburg in South Africa on Channel Africa from an African perspective. I'm Lulu Gaboo. I'm in studio with Jwalani Tulongwepe, Figile Lungwati and Tabiso Luhoko. In the Sawa.
To say surprise would be an understatement.
Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa has carried out sweeping changes in the top leadership of the ruling ZANU-PF.
We cannot condemn suffering in one place and turn a blind eye in another.
And Kenya's President William Ruto delivered a fiery speech at the 80th United Nations General Assembly. But first up, the news with Jwalani Tulongwepe and our sports headlines with Figile Lungwati.
SABC News, the African perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good day. The Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda have agreed to start implementing security measures under a US-mediated deal next month. In a joint statement yesterday, the agreement was reached in a meeting in Washington on the 17th and 18th of September and would see implementation begin on the 1st of October. The timeline offers specific dates for Rwanda and Congo to carry out the peace plan amid concerns that it has faced challenges. The joint statement, which was also issued by the United States, Qatar, Togo and the African Union Commission, states that the countries agree to complete the measures by the end of the year. Kenya's President William Ruto has made a strong call for urgent reforms to the UN system, stressing that the time for change is now. Speaking at the 80th United Nations General Assembly in New York, Ruto warned that without fundamental restructuring, the UN will remain undemocratic, unrepresentative and unfit for purpose.
On human rights, our principle is clear and unwavering. The protection of civilians and respect for humanitarian law cannot be applied selectively. We cannot condemn suffering in one place and turn a blind eye in another. Kenya is gravely concerned by the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza and by the immense suffering of civilians caught in the devastation of disproportionate military operations.
The third witness testifying in the Madlanga Commission, Major General Petrolina Van Rooyen, say from the police service in South Africa, has told the inquiry that Police Minister Senzo Mchunu had no authority to disband the Political Killings Task Team, or PKTT. Van Rooyen, who is the head of governance, legislation and policy at the legal division at SAPS, says the disbandment of the PKTT fell outside Mchunu's mandate. This as the PKTT has been at the centre of the Madlanga Commission, which is looking into corruption and political interference in the criminal justice system. Van Rooyen is testifying on the legislative framework governing the South African Police Service at the Bridget Mabandla Justice College in Pretoria.
The Minister's key powers and functions involve the following. The Minister is responsible to formulate national policing policy in consultation with the provincial governments. This ensures an overall strategic direction of a police. This ensures that the overall strategic direction of a police service is aligned to national priorities in accordance with Section 206 of the Constitution.
Still in South Africa, the Constitutional Court is today hearing a case that could redefine how consent is treated in sexual offences. At issue is whether a perpetrator of rape can avoid conviction by relying on a subjective belief that consent was given, even if there is no evidence or outward resistance before the sexual act. The Embrace Project, a non-governmental organisation that deals with cases of gender-based violence, is challenging aspects of the Sexual Offences Act that deal with consent. The organisation is representing a woman who was raped. Advocate Nazreen Rajab Badlander, Senior Counsel, elaborates.
The burden that the state has to meet through the provisions as they currently stand is almost impossible, particularly in circumstances where a victim has what the amicus refers to as a peri-traumatic response, which can incapacitate a victim and, in the case of Ms. Holztrager, cause him to freeze or, in her words, feel like she was in a trance. In my address today, I will refer most often to the crime of rape.
This week on Channel Africa Conversations, Peter Ndoro speaks to Bongekile Maqube, Deputy Political Editor at News 24, about how badly black African women are treated in the newsroom and how men look out for each other. Let's take a listen.
You have the men, who looked out for each other. You know, whether they are white, whether they are black African men, they look out for each other. You have, the white women who, mainly white women. That's the strongest that came out. The white women. You have us as black women as well not being kind to each other,
You can catch the full interview of Bongekile Maqube, Deputy Political Editor at News 24, with Peter Ndoro on this week's podcast, Channel Africa Conversations on YouTube. For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Jolani Tulo-Wepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In a sports headline, the newly appointed Raja Casablanca coach outlines his objectives, and Pakistan boosted their hopes of reaching the Asia Cup final against Sri Lanka in Abu Dhabi. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Thank you to Jolani Tulongwepe with our news update and Figile Ngwati with our sports headlines. It is 12:06 Central African Time and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, OpenView channel 628 and on www.channelafrica.co.za as well as on the SABC Plus app available on the Apple and Google Play stores. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406-9126 #Africa Updates and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or give us a call on +2711 714 4459.
Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa.
Well, today on #Africa Updates we ask you what message you have for Malawi's incoming president and for the people of Malawi. Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406-9126 #Africa Update Us.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802.
The action heats up this Saturday, the 27th of September. Orlando Pirates take on Lioli in the CAF Champions League Round 2 prelims live from Orlando Stadium. Don't blink, don't miss a moment. Kickoff is at 1500 Central African Time, only on SABC 1 and SABC Plus. The battle begins now.
AUSISA, the Association of Water and Sanitation Institution of South Africa, is a platform uniting Africa's water professionals. This November, Africa leads the conversation on water and sanitation. Join global and African leaders at the AUSISA Africa and Global South Dialogue 2025 from the 9th till the 12th of November at the Emperor's Palace, Johannesburg. From policy innovation, this is where action meets collaboration for a water-secure future. Register today at ausisa-watersan-dialogue.org or follow at AUSISA on social media. AUSISA, working together for sustainable water and sanitation security in Africa. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 9 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Malawi's President-elect Peter Mutharika is expected to address the country tomorrow, that's on Friday, after he won last week's election. Now, the election was seen as a two-man race between outgoing President Lazarus Chakwera and Mutharika. Mutharika secured more than 56% of the vote compared to Chakwera's 33%. And to discuss this further, we are joined on the line by Malawian political analyst Undule Mwakasungula. Undule, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me in this program.
Now, Undule, let's start by looking at the percentages from each leader. Is this a surprising victory for Mutharika at 56%? And why do you think he managed to garner the vote?
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. But let me say, yes, it's a surprising victory in some ways because Mutharika managed to make a serious inroads in Chakwera's strongholds, which is the central region, which traditionally has been very hard for him to penetrate. But at the same time, it is not entirely surprising because Malawians have been very frustrated with the economy, the rising of cost of living, the slow pace of reforms. And these frustrations really played a huge role in the outcome of the percentage.
Now, this election was the fourth showdown between the two. Are we expected to see any further showdowns between the two? Also, just looking at the age difference.
I don't think we'll see another direct showdown between Chakwera and Mutharika. I believe after this defeat, Chakwera may decide to run or not run again in 2030. He might decide to regroup the party and hand over leadership to someone else. But also remember, he is a man of God, and I don't think he will want to keep fighting Mutharika unless maybe Mutharika fails to deliver on his promises. We saw yesterday addressing Malawians as a president, conceding defeat even before the Malawi Electoral Commission announced the final results. This, I think, he showed to me that he's a man of peace and he doesn't want confrontation. But what I see that the real showdown is likely to be between Mutharika himself and the people of Malawi. If Mutharika fails to meet the expectation of Malawians, especially on the promises he made.
And I was just going to come to that because now it's all about what is his plan of action. Is he going to hit the ground running, or is it going to be a process of, sort of rebuilding and regrouping and then coming up with a strategy? What does Mutharika need to do? First point of action.
I think Malawians wants to see quicker change, actual reforms moving forward. And the key issues are more about the economy, high cost of living, and I think Mutharika must be quick to make a turnaround of the economy, and that will give a lot of applaud from Malawians. So I think what he must know that there's no more honeymoon now. There's no more to say we are planning for this, because during the campaign, he came with a lot of manifestos. In his manifesto, he came with a lot of promises that I am the solution for Malawi, and Malawians will want to see that he's the man who is really talking the talk. He's going to act on his promises.
Now, let's look at the voter turnout. There was, I think it was put at about 64% of people who voted, with also a percentage that did not go to the polls to cast their ballots. Now, some have said that the voter turnout and the result is less about Mutharika, but more a protest against Chakwera. What are your views on this?
Yes, I totally agree with the views, because Mutharika honestly benefited or cashed from the protest votes. You could see people voting while they were on a queue of petrol fuel. They were going to vote while their cars were parked waiting for fuel. So most of the people voted out of frustration, out of anger. Even in Central Region, as I indicated, that even Mutharika got the votes from the Central Region, which is Chakwera's strongest. And this is a very notable development and shift to Malawi, because it shows that regional and ethnic voting patterns are starting to break down in Malawi. Malawians are showing that they want solution, not tribal or politics. So this is very interesting for Malawi currently.
And now, who do you think is going to be the vice president coming from Mutharika's camp, and how do you think he's going to make up his cabinet?
I think that's very, very interesting, and that's one of the key interests for Malawian to see his first cabinet. What are the faces in his first cabinet? And that will inform Malawian that he's serious and he would want really to deliver on his promises. And in terms of the vice president, I think it's vice president that we have a lady, a woman who was the former Malawi Electoral Commission chairperson, Judge Jane Ansah. And there's a lot of expectation from Malawians, actually. And from the other angle, yes, it's empowerment of women in putting them in higher position of government. So this is very interesting, but what is key in Malawians to see that there's teamwork, and they would want to see Mutharika, the vice president, and the cabinet take Malawians out of the current challenges which the country is facing.
Well, Undule, it's been a pleasure chatting to you. Let's leave it there for today. That was Malawian political analyst Undule Mwakasungula joining us on the line. It is 17 after 12 Central African time.
Got something to say? Are you passionate about issues that matter?
Do you have a voice that deserves to be heard?
Well, we've got the perfect platform for you. Call in or drop us a WhatsApp on +27 63 406 9126.
And we will call you back.
So you could have your say and be part of the conversation.
30 years of age. I just turned 30 on the 15th of November. So that's who I am,
It's not just talk. It's your chance to air your views.
Share your opinion.
Engage with a community that values your perspective.
Follow us on our social media.
Visit our website at www.channelafrica.co.za
and get ready to share your views
on Channel Africa,
the African perspective.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 18 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda have agreed to start implementing security measures under a U.S.-mediated deal. The agreement was reached in Washington last week and would see the implementation beginning next week. However, the city of Nzabira in the Walungu territory of South Kivu province fell under the control of the M23 on Monday. And to chat further about this, we are joined on the line by Dr. David Matsanga, a political analyst and conflict resolution expert. And actually, he's joining us via video call. Dr. Matsanga, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update. Dr. Matsanga, are you there? All right, we seem to have lost that connection. We will try and get him back on the line just to unpack for us exactly what this means, especially now with the M23 having taken the Nzambira city in the Walungu province, in the Walungu territory. This has just happened on Monday, and now this deal being implemented, which was agreed on last week. Something to unpack with Dr. David Matsanga, who is a political analyst analyst and a conflict resolution expert. It is 19 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. And today on hashtag Africa Update Ask, we focus on Malawi, and we're asking you what message you have for Malawi's incoming president and for the people of Malawi. Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406 9126. Hashtag Africa Update Us.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Well, Dr. Matsanga, I'm told you are back on the line. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you very much, my sister. All the time fighting for Africa, and we shall never give up until we totally liberate ourselves.
Now, Dr. Matsanga, this story is not a new story. We've discussed this on many times previously, but it seems that at least the two countries have now agreed to start implementing security measures. Talk to us about this. Dr. Matsanga? All right, clearly we're having some network issues today. We will try and get him back on the line, and hopefully this time around it will hold, because we want to know what this means and whether this agreement between these countries will hold this time around, and we'll see some, deliverables happening and I guess accountability going forward, and whether the M23 is going to continue taking over territory, and what this means for those people.
Africa Update.
It is 21 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
We'll try and get Dr. Matsanga back on the line at some point just to unpack this for us. And we go to Zimbabwe now, where President Emmerson Mnangagwa has carried out sweeping changes in the top leadership of the ruling ZANU-PF, raising new concerns about a succession battle. The shake-up comes amid growing instability and factional fights in the ruling party. Political analysts say the reshuffle could be linked to internal maneuvering ahead of next month's People's Conference, widely viewed as a crucial step in determining Mnangagwa's eventual successor. And for more on this, Nhlanhla Mahlangu spoke to political analyst Rejoice Ngwenya.
To say surprise would be an understatement. We always know that in Zimbabwe, when there's some tectonic shift around matters of factional allegiance, the incumbent president of the party, the ruling party, would usually start shifting figures around. So as an observer, looking inside out, I have a feeling that there are certain, emotional and political interests that are being balanced by Emmerson Mnangagwa. And you can see the individuals that he's tinkering around with. Conspiracy theorists will always argue that he is alert to the factional support that is associated with the Vice President, Constantine Chiwenga. But we are yet to hear General Chiwenga himself mention anything other than the rumors around that. But I should say that as an observer, I know that there are some certain movements within the party that Emmerson Mnangagwa is trying to balance.
Political analysts say the reshuffle could be linked to internal maneuvering ahead of next month's People's Conference. What do you make of this?
The conference is not an elective conference. Christopher Mtswangwa, the ZANU-PF spokesperson last week, alluded to that. This is a conference that is virtually focusing on matters of economic policy and international relations. So in principle, one cannot argue that this shifting of entities within the party are to do with the conference. However, that as a revolutionary party or a nationalist party, whenever these political officials gather together, there will definitely be discussions around the issues of succession. But I don't believe that ZANU-PF is keen to portray this particular conference as a conference that is critical in terms of the hierarchy of power. But we know that behind closed doors, there will obviously be a lot of discussions. And you could be right in that, since he has already started doing this before the conference, it would mean that by the time the officials get to the conference, they have an idea of which, perspective or which political alignment is likely to be associated with the future. But I don't want to put it as a straight policy position because it's not an elective conference.
Could this stabilize the party in any way, in your view?
There are certain tectonic movements around ZANU-PF, and the conspiracy theorists have been arguing even that Emerson Mnangagwa literally cancelled his trip to the United Nations, which is unheard of. In the 45 years that I have known ZANU-PF, every presidential, candidate or president of this country, we've already had to anyway, will never miss the opportunity to go and make a presentation at Onga. But this time, he actually said he was not going, or it was stated that he was not going. So the assumption is that the movements within the party, the political turbulence, is such that it is necessary for him to think around, because these are big names. I mean, Open Pofu, Jacob Mtenda, Patrick Chinamasa, these are iconic names in ZANU-PF, and you don't just temper around with them unless if you have a good reason. So I'm sure that the good reason is that he is trying to manage factional issues, and pretty soon we are going to hear quite more than what has appeared in the past few days.
What do you read into relations between President Mnangagwa and the Vice President?
That's one area that has sent political tongues wagging. On one side, the ZANU-PF sympathizers say that don't read much into social media reports about the conflict between Mnangagwa and Chiwenga. On the other side, most opposition analysts say that the aspirational side of presidential status of Constitution Chiwenga is putting him, against the tide of political interest from Mnangagwa supporters. But I want to offer my personal, opinion here. Now, the addition into the hierarchy of Kudakwashi Tagurei, we say to be the chief funder of the Mnangagwa, movement, for want of a better term, would obviously unsettle Constituent Chiwenga. He himself, Chiwenga, has not said anything about this conflict. So far, it's everybody else talking about him, Christopher Mchangwa, Temba Mdiswa, and so forth, but he has never mentioned anything. But I strongly feel that, as a nationalist, he also, as a vice president again, he might have had interest in taking over as a ZANU-PF presidential candidate 2028. And the fact that there's discussions about 2030 and now the Kudakwashi Tagurei factor, I'm sure that there's some discomfort in the Constituent Chiwenga camp. But to say conflict and all that, I think that would be taken too far, because ZANU-PF is a way of managing this intra-party relationship. I wouldn't put it across as conflict, but obviously as discomfort and turbulence.
That was Zimbabwean political analyst Rejoice Ngwenya speaking to Nhlanhla Mahlangu. It is 28 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. On hashtag Africa Update Ask, we focus on Malawi and want to ask you what message you have for Malawi's incoming president and for the people of Malawi. Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406 9126. Hashtag Africa Update Us.
Hi there. Do you want to elevate your business and give it a voice in South Africa and Africa as a whole? Well, in that case, let Channel Africa make this a possibility. Channel Africa is willing to advertise your business for as little as 30,000 rands or $1,719.18. To get access to these great rates, send all requests to mukwenata@SABC. That's MOKOENATA@SABC.
Channel Africa, the African perspective. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
It is 12:30 Central African Time, and our news headlines up next with Jwalani Tulongwepe.
SABC News. Headlines.
The African perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good afternoon. Making headlines, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda have agreed to start implementing security measures under a US-mediated deal next month. Kenya's President William Ruto has made a strong call for urgent reforms to the UN system, stressing that the time for change is now. And finally, South Africa's Constitutional Court is today hearing a case that could redefine how consent is treated in sexual offences. I will have details on these and other stories at 1 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines.
The African perspective. Sports on Channel Africa.
The African perspective.
We kick off with football news. This hour, Morocco football club Raja Casablanca have appointed South African Fadlu Davids as head coach. David succeeds Tunisian Lassad Chabi, who parted ways with the club after an assessment of results and team structure at the start of the season. The South African signed a 2-year contract and is happy to be back in the Botola League.
It's a fantastic feeling to be back home, a club that we have a good feeling for. Good reception already from the players. It feels really good to be back, and hope we can have a successful season, inshallah.
Davids, well known as Ed Raja for having served as assistant coach during the 2023-2024 season, notably contributed to the club's historic double during his period. He outlines the objectives for this season.
You want to go for every trophy that is available, and of course it starts with Botola. We have to try to win every game. Yes, we are thinking about lifting the trophy. We are thinking about Throne Cup. But at the moment, we just have to focus on the next game. All our focus is on Jadida, and that's what we'll focus on, and that's how we'll do it. We'll approach every match game by game.
Morocco returned to the FIFA Under-20 World Cup with momentum and expectation, ending a 2-decade absence from the tournament when Chile 2025 kicks off on Saturday. Drawn in a heavyweight Group C with Brazil, Spain and Mexico, the Atlas Cubs arrive at 2025 Under-20 AFCON runners-up and with a clear brief from their coach, reach the knockouts and see how far the journey can go. It'll be Morocco's fourth appearance at this level and their first since a sparkling fourth-place finish in 2005, a reminder that the country's youth pathway has long produced teams that can live with the elite. Their Chile mission begins in Santiago against Spain before meeting with Brazil and Mexico, all staged at the Estadio Nacional. Now, cricket news. Pakistan boosted their hopes of reaching the Asia Cup final by edging out to a 5-wicket victory against Sri Lanka in Abu Dhabi. After their disappointing and controversial defeats by rivals India, Pakistan slipped to 80 for 5 in pursuit of 134 before a partnership of 58 between Hussein Talat and Mohammad Nawaz rescued them. Needing 46 from 40 balls, Nawaz hit Wanindu Hasaranga, who had 2 for 5 after his first 2 overs for back-to-back boundaries, and when the leg spinner returned to bowl the 70th over, Talat struck another 2 fours. The top 2 teams in the Super 4 will contest Sunday's final. And in tennis news, Francis Tiafoe smashed his record as he lost to qualifier Martin Fucsovics in the first round of the Japan Open yesterday. The 8th-seeded Tiafoe struggled with his first serve in a 3-6, 6-1, 7-5 loss to Fucsovics and smashed his record against the court surface just after the Hungarian sealed victory with a forehand winner. Tiafoe, who slipped to 29th in the rankings. It was the 4th consecutive loss for the American after a third loss round to Jan Leonard Struff at the US Open and defeat in both of his matchups against the Czech Republic in Davis Cup qualifying this month. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figile Ngwadi.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. The Midnight Snack, 12 to 3 a.m.
Our fitness coach, her name is Yvonne Dimakato Pasha. How to remain consistent with gyms, Dima, and I'm going to put you on the spot right now. As we are talking, I will send you my picture and I want you to tell me what you think I should work on. Because, you know, when I look at myself, Dima, I think I'm very handsome. I'm so good looking, oh my goodness. Like here at Channel Africa where I work, I think I'm one of the most good looking people ever. Like sometimes when I look at myself in the mirror, I never get used to how good I look. I'm just amazing.
You're okay with the way you're looking. You wish people could and now you want to put me on the spot.
Do I need gym?
Yeah. I mean, if you can just consider eating healthy, cutting down a few foodstuffs such as junk.
The Midnight Snack, every Monday, 12 to 3 a.m. with Chanduko Ligege. Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
A very good afternoon. Italian energy group Eni says it's completed the sale of a 30% stake in the Ivory Coast Baleni offshore project to global commodity trader Vitol. The Ivorian field was discovered in 2021 and is the country's main offshore development. It now produces over 62,000 barrels of oil and more than 75 million cubic feet of gas per day from Phase 1 and 2. The launch of Phase 3 is expected to increase oil production to 150,000 barrels of oil and gas to 200 million cubic feet per day. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has told the U.S. business community that South Africa did not take its relationship with the United States for granted and valued the trust American companies continued to put in the country. He was speaking at a trade and investment executive dialogue on the margins of the UN General Assembly in New York. The event was co-hosted by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce's U.S. Africa Business Center and the American Chamber of Commerce in South Africa. Sherwin Bryce-Peace reports.
The event formed part of efforts to deepen commercial ties between the two countries, but also to address the broader strategic imperatives that bind the countries' economies together. Ramaphosa expressed immense optimism that trade negotiations with Washington would soon culminate in an agreement, as he urged those American companies in the room to advocate for the renewal of the African Growth and Opportunity Act, which expires at the end of the month. He also welcomed the establishment of a U.S. Trade and Investment Forum, indicating that its inaugural session would take place in South Africa next year. The president of the U.S. Africa Business Center, Kendra Gaither, called the relationship a vital one that merited dedicated attention.
South Africa is taking major steps in advancing urban innovation and economic inclusion. That's according to Koli Zefenia, the convener of the Smart Cities Task Team in the SA BRICS Manufacturing Working Group. He spoke to SABC News on the sidelines of the Ubuntu Smart Cities Conference, which ended yesterday in Midrand in the Gauteng province. The conference brought together African leaders, global experts and investors to tackle urgent challenges facing cities, from infrastructure and energy to digital transformation and mobility. Zefania explains how the initiative aligns with South Africa's broader development goals.
We are looking mainly in describing the basics of smart cities, how municipalities can actually look at creating frameworks and benchmarks to be able to deploy smart cities. Of course, infrastructure is the main thing, because we need our smart cities to be able to have the necessary or the requisite infrastructure for them to deploy smart cities. was looking at skills development, as an enabler.
Hundreds of members of South Africa's National Union of Mine Workers, NUM, will today go on strike at the ARM mine located in Tabazimbi in Limpopo province. The workers are demanding better pay and improved benefits. The union has accused the mine of exploiting its members. Noom Rustenburg, Regional Secretary Dikeledi Manaka, says members will continue their strike until their demands are met.
Our demands were 15,000 for the lower earning categories and a 12% increase for those who are unofficial. But as and when we were negotiating, we ended up saying, because the company is offering 2.8%, let's take this amount and put it in a basket and reallocate the funds according to the needs of the employees. There are those who are still earning 6,000 rand in that company. And we're saying those who are earning less than 10,000 rand, at least they must get an increase of 1,500.
The Swiss National Bank has held its key interest rate at 0 today, the lowest among major central banks, as it warned that US President Donald Trump's tariffs had dimmed the outlook for the Swiss economy going into 2026. The SNB kept its policy rate at 0% as expected by the market, helped by a small uptick in inflation in recent months. This was the first hold in 7 meetings by the SNB after it started reducing borrowing costs in March 2024. The bank says there are high hurdles to reintroducing a negative interest rate, a policy which sparked concerns from savers and pension funds when used from December 2014 to September 2022. The dollar in Nigeria is trading at 1,488 naira. In Botswana, it's at 13.16. Kenya, 128 shilling 46. And Zambia, 23 kwacha 60. The BRICS countries in Brazil, the dollar, 5 ruble 30. Russia, 83 rubles 71. India, 88 rupees 74. China, 71.12. And in South Africa, the dollar will cost you 17 rand 29 cents. 74 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Gold is trading at $3,733 and platinum $1,484 per ounce. Brent crude oil is at $69.10 a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I'm Tabisolo Hoku.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628.
It is 12:42 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Our Soweto showdown this Saturday, the 27th of September. Kaizer Chiefs face Kabuskop in the CAF Confederations Cup at the iconic FNB Stadium. Who will dominate the pitch? Tune in live at 1500 Central African time on SABC2. The game is on and it is everywhere.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Well, today we've been focusing once again on the elections in Malawi, and with Peter Mutharika having won these elections. He is the incumbent president. And our question to you today on #Africa Update asks, what message do you have for Malawi's incoming president and for the people of Malawi? We have a few responses that we are going to just read on air. Felix Kadiampankeni says, history is the best teacher. He must respect the will of those people who voted for him and not sleep on the job, thereby permitting thieves to loot the country's resources. And then Tedious Lucky Seth Manda says, Politics season is over. Focus on the ground. Politics delay development. Malawi still very behind in SADC region because of politics and enmity and hatred amongst. And then also Cliff Msango says he is too old, 95 years. He must not give Chisale power to loot Malawi resources again. And Jane Asa. And I think he 95, yeah, he's still got a couple of years to get to 95. I think if I'm not mistaken, he is 81 years old or 82 years old. And just those are some of the comments that are coming through on our social media platforms. And if you want to hear your comments being read on air, you can share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406 9126, hashtag Africa Update Ask. And I believe we do have some live comments. Let's take a listen.
My message is the Malawians have chosen him so that things must be better. Things must be cheaper. The fuel must be available. If he will not do like this, if he will do like the previous government, Malawians will take him out in 2030. He must do what Malawians has chosen him to be a president, not like what he was doing the previous government.
And that's just a voice note that's come through. So if you do want to hear your voice note on our platform, share your thoughts on all our social media platforms. And we go to Kenya now, where Kenya's President William Ruto delivered a fiery speech at the 80th United Nations General Assembly in New York on Wednesday. Ruto's speech addressed the humanitarian situation in Gaza, the war in Sudan, the need for institutional reforms at the UN, and among international lenders such as the IMF and the World Bank, the security situation in Haiti and the world's simmering geopolitics. He also called for urgent reforms in the global climate financing in the latest push by Africa for fairer systems to support vulnerable economies. Let's take a listen.
On human rights, our principle is clear and unwavering. The protection of civilians and respect for humanitarian law cannot be applied selectively. We cannot condemn suffering in one place and turn a blind eye in another. Kenya is gravely concerned by the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza and by the immense suffering of civilians caught in the devastation of disproportionate military operations. At the same time, we call for the unconditional release of Israeli hostages. In line with the African Union and United Nations resolutions, we also call for a permanent ceasefire, for strict adherence to international humanitarian law, and for the launch of a credible political process. Only through such a process can the vision of a two-state solution be realized, where Israel and Palestine live side by side in peace, security, and stability. Kenya is equally deeply troubled by the worsening humanitarian situation in Sudan, where innocent citizens are caught in the crossfire of a needless war. We fully endorse the Quad, comprising Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and the United States, in affirming that there cannot be a military solution and that only political dialogue offers a viable path forward. We join the Quad in urging all parties, including SAF, RSF, and the external actors, to respect Sudan's sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity, and firmly reject any attempts to divide the country, reaffirming our unwavering support for a unified Sudan for the benefit of all its people. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, those who look to the future with a clear vision know that climate change is not only the single greatest threat of our age, but also one of the greatest transformation opportunities of our time. The global stocktake has made it plain that the world is off track. Current national determined contributions are steering us towards temperature rises far beyond any safe threshold. This is the difference between survival on one hand and devastation for millions across the world on the other. Kenya and Africa are not passive victims of this crisis. We are taking bold steps showing that climate action is not only possible, but can also be the foundation for inclusive growth. We are building a climate resilient society by embedding adaptation into every sector, from agriculture and energy to infrastructure and livelihoods to sustainable mining and artificial intelligence.
That was Kenya's President William Ruto addressing the 80th United Nations General Assembly in New York. It is 12:49 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
The Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda have agreed to start implementing security measures under a U.S.-mediated deal. The agreement was reached in Washington last week and would see the implementation beginning next week. However, the city of Nzabira in the Walungu territory of South Kivu province fell under the control of the M23 on Monday. And to chat further about this, we are joined on the line by Dr. David Matanga, a political analyst and conflict resolution expert, joining us via video call. Dr. Matanga, hopefully the line will hold and we'll be able to have a discussion about this. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you very much, Lulu. Thank you very much, Africa, those listening to us this afternoon.
Now, Dr. Matanga, this is not a new story. We've been having discussions over a number of years, and now with the back and forth with the mediations, some working and some not working. Now, this time around, there seems to be light at the end of the tunnel. Will this happen? They've agreed to start implementing these security measures. Is it going to happen?
I have told you, the tragedy of Africa and African leadership and African heads of state like Tshisekedi and others is they don't see what is near them, neither do they see what is coming tomorrow. That is why Chinawa Achebe said, the tragedy of Africa, and you can conclude what I am talking. I have told you time and time again, I want peace in DRC Congo. Everybody in Africa wants peace in DRC Congo. But the type of peace, piecemeal pieces of peace that are being gathered around in Qatar, in the White House, Washington, will not work. It can't work. Where is it working? You say you start implementing next week when cities are falling. Why do you say you want peace when you don't like M23 to be incorporated in the Congolese army? How then do you say you are implementing? What are you implementing? I am telling you, you and I, we shall come back here. We have been on the same subject for a long time, Lulu. We are coming back here. One of these days, Mr. Tshisekedi will find the M23 in the capital city, Kinshasa.
Now, just speaking of the M23, with this agreement taking place, the M23 have taken over the city of Nzabira in the Walungu territory of the South Kivu province. So clearly they're not interested with what's happening with regards to agreements between Rwanda and the DRC government.
We're not on table. You can't do an agreement with nothing. Hot air. Do you know what we call hot air? What Trump did was hot air. Completely hot air. Call it hot air. And I believe Susie Wills, you will hear me. You did a hot air on DRC Congo. I am one of the few people in Africa who doesn't. I want to call it a spade a spade. If you don't like me, so be it. But Congo can never have peace in the format of a hot air system where Qatar, where America sits and says, give us this, we shall give you this, we shall do this. What implementation? How are you implementing it? Are you going to invade the Congo and go to those territories? Why are you not? Where are the rebels? Are they disarmed? Have they taken the ceasefire seriously? Where is the Congolese army itself? It is continuing also to fight the rebels. The rebels are saying, we are not part and parcel of this agreement. Whose agreement are you implementing? This is the most obnoxious hot air I've ever seen. And I don't think the people are serious to liberate Congo, to pacify Congo. The only group that is those who are determined is perhaps my Ugandan troops that are there who are hunting down the ADF, and I encourage them to do so that we keep our border clean out of this mess, and therefore we leave it. But the whole thing is hot air, my dear sister.
Now, the initial 2024 agreement's 90-day deadline falls today. What happens now?
Yes. It has, as it falls today, more cities are going to fall. Yes, that's one. There is another one about to fall by tomorrow. By the end of the week, by 1st October, several cities would have been captured. Anybody who has studied the Congo, like me, I've studied it, I've looked at it, I've analyzed it. I have been to all these peace agreement rules. If you think you can have anything to do with this, with whatever you are trying to raise, you are wasting time, Lulu.
Now, Dr. Matanga, let's talk now about another issue, the issue of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Now, they've pulled out of the ICC. This is very important. Talk to us about this. And it was expected because they have been speaking about how they feel that there is no need for them as countries to be a part of it. Why do you think this is happening? And are we going to see more countries following suit?
I'm the architect. I don't want to lie to you. God will harass me if I lie to you. I'm the architect of their pullout. Yes, I wrote documents, gave to Burkina Faso president. I said, get out. I have managed now to remove 4 countries of Africa. I did the Burundi one. I'm a happy man. I told you I was doing the South Africa one when the Zuma was in power. Mr. Ramaphosa reversed it. But I am telling you, African countries, Matanga is telling you, and the world let it hear. France manipulates ICC. If you stay there in 2 years to come, the new administration in Washington will use ICC to collect some of these African leaders into the ICC in The Hague. Wait and watch. You stay there. You think that Trump does not like ICC, you should also remain there and stay stagnant. If America can run away from ICC, who are you? Some of the African leaders. Why are they not strengthening the African court in Arusha? The 3 countries that left the ICC are signatories. They have signed, they have handed over their documents to Arusha. Burkina Faso was the first country, followed Mali and Niger. They have signed to be accountable in African court. So if you touch any of their citizens or them, you take them to Arusha, not to the Hague. I told them they took the strategy. I am laughing all the way to the bank. No, I wish it was money, but it is for African sake. I have won. I am happy, and I've written a document. Anybody can contest with me. If you stay in that ICC, believe me or not, most of these African leaders will be located like locusts. How you collect locusts when they are crowded together. They will be there. The new administration in Washington that is coming, which could be Democrats, they will reinstate ICC powers and they will start looking for people who have been committing human rights on the African continent. Why should you ship an African to go to The Hague yet we can have justice in our own country.
Dr. Matsanga, Dr. Matsanga, we need time where we can unpack, you've touched on it, and I'd like to know what the response is from other countries that you've spoken to with regards to, leaving the ICC.
I am one of the few people for 24 years. I've told the whole world, I hate this institution. Institution is manned 70% by France, Lulu. So if you are against France, how do you stay in the ICC? They will come for you. They will come for you. They will take you. France pays the salaries of ICC. Pick under Article 127. Leave it and go. And
Dr. Matsanga,
your own court in Africa.
Dr.
And then
Matsanga,
you go there, you are shouting, the imperialists, get out of ICC and set a new court in African continent. Thank you.
We're going to leave it there. We need more time on this, and hopefully we'll be able to chat about this and unpack it further. Thank you for your time on Africa Update. It's always a pleasure. It's Dr. David Matsanga, political analyst and conflict resolution expert, joining us on the line. And Tabuko coming in, he's having a bit of a chuckle there with, we always have these chats with Dr. Matsanga.
It's a very, very, very heated conversation.
Yeah.
So very quickly,
yes.
We'll be talking on the upside this afternoon, the relationship between mental health and suicide. That's one of the key conversations that we'll be delving into. And then we get into a conversation about From Adam to AI, the stories we tell, which explores sacred tradition reimagined with the application of modern tools. It's an exhibition that reinterprets Christian iconography through the lens of contemporary South Africa.
It's all coming up from the top of the hour with Lester Bukhule and Matiko Musito on the upside. For myself, Lulu Gaboo and the Africa Update team, our producer Tracy Bumga, technical operator Ndando Lutuli, and social media Sfiso Hlope and Talent Butelezi. Thank you for joining us and continue with us on our socials. Let's do this again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
SABC News.